The baby is in the car. The crying at night is too loud.
With my husband's rough voice, the call was cut off. 3 months after giving birth, I was diagnosed with overwork and had to be hospitalized, leaving the baby in his care. However, realizing it was an emergency, I hurriedly left the hospital. When I got home, I found my daughter limp inside the car parked in the driveway. The thermometer inside the car read 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I never thought it would come to this. In despair, I decided to take action against his irresponsibility. I married my husband, Daniel, who is 2 years older than me, when I was 25. We met at a group date, and I was attracted to his interesting conversation and considerate nature, which led to our relationship and eventual marriage. Even after getting married, he continued to treat me kindly. I loved Daniel and worked hard on cooking and cleaning to make him happy, and he reciprocated, making me very happy. However, about a year into our marriage, things started to go downhill.
What? Dinner isn't ready again?
I'm sorry. I bought some ready-made food, so could you please forgive me? I'm feeling particularly unwell today.
So, you just slept all day. Even though you're off work, I'm shocked.
Seeing me lying down, Daniel sighed heavily. Feeling disappointed by his attitude, I forced myself to get up and heat up the ready-made food. Around this time, I found out I was pregnant. While the news of having a child was joyful, his attitude became a problem. As my morning sickness worsened, making it difficult to do housework, Daniel started taking it out on me. Even on days when I was too nauseous to move, he would click his tongue and say,
"Why can't you even cook?"
And on weekends, he would scold me, saying,
"At least do some cleaning."
Although I had always loved and devoted myself to Daniel, his attitude was starting to wear me down. My longtime friend Luna, who visited our home, also frowned upon hearing about the situation. She said,
"Since both of you work, you should share the housework.
And
It's unacceptable to be cold to a wife suffering from morning sickness."
Overall, she believed Daniel was at fault. However, I couldn't bring myself to fully embrace that idea, as I couldn't forget the kind person he used to be. Daniel's job is harder, and he's working so hard. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to speak up against him. However, it was a mistake not to have a proper discussion at that time. After safely giving birth to our daughter, Camila, Daniel's terrible attitude only worsened.
Hey, the crying is so loud. If you're the mother, do something about it quickly.
I'm cooking and can't leave it. Can you soothe her instead?
Ha! I'm watching TV right now. If you have time to argue, get to work.
That day, too, Daniel didn't respond to my request and went back to the room, grumbling. I had no choice but to stop cooking and soothe Camila, but my heart was filled with frustration. Although Daniel adored Camila, he didn't seem to want to take care of her and didn't participate in childcare at all. Moreover, when he came home, he would just laze around and didn't help with housework either.
You're completely different from before we got married. I didn't think you were this incompetent.
Maybe he lost his affection for me because I couldn't keep up with the housework. Daniel started to shower me with cold words every time we met and gradually stopped coming home. As a result, even though it was right after giving birth, I spent my days overwhelmed with housework and childcare. Maybe Daniel didn't love me but just wanted someone to serve him. Such thoughts filled my mind, and I gradually became more and more depressed. And as I continued to live a life full of stress, I finally reached my limit.
I feel dizzy.
The strain had taken its toll. One day, 3 months after Camila was born, I collapsed at a supermarket. After being taken to the hospital by ambulance and calming down a bit, the diagnosis was overwork and stress. According to the doctor, since it was right after giving birth, it would be better to be hospitalized for a while to monitor my condition. However, a concern immediately came to my mind. But what should I do about Camila while I'm hospitalized? Looking at Camila sleeping in my arms, I bit my lip. I was told I couldn't bring the baby into the hospital, and my parents lived far away, so I couldn't rely on them. I also felt hesitant to ask my best friend, Luna, for help. However, in the evening, Daniel, who was called to the hospital by the doctor, smiled brightly.
Oh, come on. Just leave it to me. I always take care of Camila, so you can relax.
To my astonishment, he lifted Camila from my arms with a big smile. Watching Daniel put on a good face in front of the doctor, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. After all, I had never seen Daniel participate in childcare before. However, the doctor, unaware of the situation, nodded in satisfaction and quickly sent him and Camila home. Is Daniel really taking proper care of her? Back in my hospital room, I was filled with anxiety instead of resting. In the 3 months since giving birth, I had realized how challenging it was to take care of a baby. I couldn't believe that Daniel, who had been lazy all this time, could handle such a big task. He didn't even know where the baby bottles were kept.
I'm really worried.
Unable to rest, I decided to call Daniel. However, he, who was supposed to be at home, didn't answer the phone. Even when I sent an email, there was no response. Maybe he's busy taking care of Camila. I suddenly remembered myself right after giving birth. Indeed, I had no time to worry about my phone and was busy taking care of the baby all day long. Thinking that Daniel might be in the same situation, I decided to wait until morning to see how things would go. But I ended up regretting this decision. The next morning, I started calling Daniel again from around 7 o'clock, but still couldn't reach him. As I spent the time anxiously, he finally answered around 10 o'clock. Daniel said,
Stop calling me so many times. I'm busy here.
The reliable face he showed in front of the doctor the previous day was nowhere to be seen. Daniel, who shouted irritably, made me grip my phone tightly.
I'm worried about Camila. Is there anything wrong?
Daniel replied,
She's in the car. I put her there because her night crying was too noisy.
What?
Daniel continued.
That's enough, right? Don't contact me anymore.
And then he quickly hung up the phone. I felt the blood drain from my face as I held my phone. The temperature had been rising rapidly since early morning, and even though it was still morning, it was already extremely hot. If what Daniel said was true, Camila was left in the car in such heat.
This is terrible.
Unable to stay still, I found myself leaving the hospital and heading home. I knew I shouldn't, but I thought it would be too late if something happened to dear Camila. And my decision was not wrong.
No way. Camila.
When I arrived home and looked inside the car, there was Camilla lying limp on the back seat. The car's thermometer read 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was hard to believe she was okay. After hurriedly calling an ambulance, I tried to get the car keys. However, no matter where I looked in the house, he was nowhere to be found. Unbelievably, Daniel had gone out somewhere, leaving Camilla behind. I can't believe this is happening. I clenched my fists and burst into tears. If I had insisted on being hospitalized with Camilla at that time, she wouldn't have been in danger. I thought that Daniel would somehow think about Camilla. I never imagined he would consider her so unimportant as to abandon her care. Coupled with the dissatisfaction I had been feeling, I finally exploded with anger towards Daniel at this moment. I will never forgive him for putting Camilla in danger. In the end, he didn't care about the family at all. And at that moment, to prove this fact, I received an email. What? This is... And seeing the content, I vowed to take revenge on Daniel. The next day, as I was sitting on the bed, trying to calm myself, the door to the hospital room opened early in the morning.
Hey! Is it true?
Looking up, I saw Daniel standing there with a frantic expression on his face. I quietly watched him, still seated. Oh, you came so early?
Of course I did. I woke up to find Camilla gone, and then I got that email.
The truth is, the night before, I had sent him an email after returning to the hospital. The content of the email was that Camilla had died. Daniel must have been extremely panicked when he saw my email and found Camilla missing from the car when he got home. As a result, he rushed to see me. That was a lie. Camilla is alive. When I said this casually, he gaped at me. This was because Camilla, who was thought to be lifeless, had somehow been saved by the emergency team's treatment. However, it seemed that if the report had been delayed even a little, she would not have survived. Although I caused trouble for the hospital by leaving my room without permission, it was nothing compared to saving Camilla. She is now resting in another room in this hospital.
What the? So there was no need to panic.
Relieved by my words, Daniel sighed in relief, but his complete relaxation only increased my irritation. While it was fortunate that Camilla was safe, this incident was not something that could be brushed off with "it's fine" because she was saved. Why on earth did you do such a thing? Staying in a car with the engine off in the summer is dangerous even for adults.
Shut up! I didn't think it would turn into such a big deal. It was meant to be a lesson. Seeing that he was completely unrepentant despite Camilla's life being saved, I frowned deeply. If things continued like this, Daniel would surely endanger Camilla again and again. As her mother, I had to prevent that at all costs. And there was one more thing I needed to confirm with Daniel. During this lesson, you went out with your mistress, didn't you? I glared at him with a calm voice, and he widened his eyes in shock. What? What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. I have proof. Seeing his clearly flustered state, I took out my smartphone and showed him a picture. This. It's you, isn't it? It was a photo of Daniel entering a hotel with a woman. Actually, after discovering Camilla slumped in the car, I received an email from my friend Luna. She said she had accidentally spotted my Daniel walking with an unknown woman in the town at night. Knowing the situation between my husband and me, Luna was convinced it was an affair and followed them, taking decisive photos. She hesitated all night about whether to send them to me, but in the morning, she finally decided to send the email. This photo was apparently taken last night. It matches the time when Camilla was in the car, right? I questioned Daniel with a voice trembling with anger. In other words, after putting the crying Camilla in the car, he went to meet his mistress. The reason he hadn't come home since my pregnancy was probably because he was meeting her. Naturally, I was shocked by the affair. But more than that, I was furious that Daniel prioritized his mistress over Camilla. Camilla was supposed to be our irreplaceable treasure, who had finally been born. But the words Daniel said next were unbelievable.
I cheated because you became useless.
Instead of apologizing, Daniel turned red with rage.
If you didn't want Camilla to end up like this, you shouldn't have collapsed. I don't need a useless wife.
As Daniel shouted without restraint, I felt a coldness spread through my chest. It seemed Daniel had only ever thought of me as a convenient servant. If that was his attitude, I had no intention of putting up with him any longer. I will never forgive you. Do you think you can get away with almost killing my Camilla? Daniel raised his eyebrows in slight confusion at my low voice.
Ha! What do you mean?
The police are already involved. To arrest you. As he gasped, I smiled grimly. When I called the emergency services, the police had also arrived at the scene. I had told them everything, including how Daniel had left Camilla in the car and gone out, and how her life had been in danger. The hospital staff also joined in the complaint. So, it's only a matter of time before you're arrested. I glared at Daniel with all my pent-up anger. I had no hesitation about turning him over to the police. It was unfortunate that we couldn't build a wonderful family together, but the kind Daniel I once knew was gone.
No way! Are you serious?
Of course. We're getting a divorce, so stay away from me and Camilla. Finally understanding his situation, Daniel turned pale and began to apologize desperately.
I apologize for everything. Please, I don't want to go to jail. I'll change. Please forgive me.
But his apology didn't reach my heart at all. Even at that moment, Daniel was only apologizing to save himself. I told you, I will never forgive you. Reflect on your actions in prison. My cold words left him stunned. Seeing the changed Daniel in front of me, I pressed the nurse call button to summon the police. Later, I divorced Daniel. He was arrested for his treatment of Camilla. Considering the affair and the fact that I collapsed from stress and overwork, Daniel was ordered to pay $40,000 in alimony, more than usual. Even if he gets out of prison, he will live alone with debt. Meanwhile, after being discharged from the hospital, I returned to my parents' home with Camilla and focused on raising her for a while. Surrounded by my adorable Camilla and kind parents, I am now living a healthy life both physically and mentally. In this warm environment, I plan to think about the happiness of myself and Camilla from now on.
How did you like this story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.